When you play student politics and you introduce policy like you're a 13-year-old moron, the downstream consequences of that are people are cold and without hot water and without power. And I hope Eamon Ryan is happy up in his house in Dublin, because I bet he has power and I bet he has hot water and I bet he is able to take a shower, unlike the people in rural Ireland who had to build houses to his standards and that government's standards, who now have no hot water, can't boil a kettle and can't heat their houses because the requirements and the regulations that they imposed, even on rural Ireland, do not fit with rural Ireland. Stopping people from cutting turf on their bogs, stopping people from being able to use solid and liquid fuels to heat their homes in rural Ireland does not work. That's for cloud cuckoo land. It's not for the west of Ireland. They're saying that we will not have power back until the 5th of February. Around here, they are saying that the water has been out. It was out yesterday. There's no water pressure, obviously, because the power's out. Now they're doing what they can to restore that. The area that's affected, and there's a lot of destruction. You can see behind me, where there are big trees, there's a lot of trees down, a lot of the structural damage. We got away relatively lightly here, but slates off the roof, holes in the roof, that kind of thing in various buildings. But you're in Abbeynock Moy, County Galway, East Galway right now. About half of Tuam has got power. Tuam's about 8-9 miles from here. There's no mobile coverage, as you fellas have discovered coming in here. I have to drive 10 miles to get proper mobile coverage, and even that, it's not data intensive. You can't stream, you can't do video, anything like that. So you can't work if you're in the sort of tech-related industry. And then all the way from here to Mount Bellew, Myloch, Glenamaddy, over towards Athenry, Kilkerran, Clonberan. There's a huge area that is completely without power and without water. Now, for those of us that have open fires, wood-burning stoves, turf, and wood that's logged, we can stay warm, you can keep your house heated. For those that do not, for example, these new regulation homes that have been built that have got heat pumps and then have electrical power as the backup source of heating, they're cold. Those houses are cold right now. I had someone come to my place a couple of days ago because their house, they've got no heat, nothing. Now, some people are driving into Galway because Galway city has power. That's more than 20 miles from here. So people are going to find where there is power to warm themselves, to be able to get showers, etc. But nothing's working. And I hope Eamon Ryan is happy up in his house in Dublin, because I bet he has power and I bet he has hot water and I bet he is able to take a shower, unlike the people in rural Ireland who had to build houses to his standards and that government's standards, who now have no hot water, can't boil a kettle and can't heat their houses because the requirements and the regulations that they imposed, even on rural Ireland, do not fit with rural Ireland. Stopping people from cutting turf on their bogs, stopping people from being able to use solid and liquid fuels to heat their homes in rural Ireland does not work. That's for cloud cuckoo land. It's not for the west of Ireland. These roads that you've driven on, we cleared them ourselves with our own chainsaws, with our own diesel, with our own labour, with our own JCB. And the farmers all around here came out with their tractors and were clearing as fast as they could, because that's what people we do. We come together and we help each other. Some people have generators, some people have diesel supply for their generators, and they're offering folks that don't have that to be able to come and plug in, boil water, etc. But that's what we're dealing with. And then, of course, there's where the water is working, there's boil water notices, because not everything is working with those water supply systems. I run an international business in space and telecommunications. I'm here taking care of things locally, my own place, and doing what I can to be useful around. I didn't run for elected office. I didn't run for this Dáil. But if I did, I can guarantee you I'd be sitting in there right now and I'd be making sure that everyone was on top of this and that there were crews and international crews in East Galway and all of the areas that are affected, swamping this area to get this thing up and running, to keep people off the grid from now until the 5th of February. Enjoy your holidays, lads.
The timeline seems rather long. The fact that there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people until the end of the week who don't have power, and then even into next week there's going to be people, a smaller proportion of people who don't have power, including yourself. Do you think that it should take that long? Is there what do you think of the timeline effectively that we've been given for when these repairs are going to be completed?
I don't expect competence personally, which is why I have thousands of litres of diesel, a generator and everything else. I don't expect competence. Other people do expect competence. I would suggest that the lesson that we draw from this is to understand that what we have is mediocrity, not preparedness for circumstances and occasions like this. Do not depend or think that government can fix everything for you. They can't even keep your water running. They can't keep the power on. If they can't keep the lights on, they're not going to be able to do anything else very competently. That would be my suggestion. Prepare and take a lesson from this. Be ready, and be ready to take care of yourselves and take care of your neighbours and take care of your local communities, because these lads are going to be on holiday when you need them.
Last question. What would you say to a government minister if they were standing here and they said something like, well, look, of course it's a terrible situation, and of course we're doing everything we can to improve the situation, but we can't control the weather. You know, this is a once in a generation a calamity that these things do happen from time to time, and it was an out of control storm, and so all we can do is our best to clean up the damage after the fact. What would you say to that argument from a government representative?
I would say that's a very interesting argument, Minister. Now what you need to do is come with me down that road about half a mile, and we'll go to a new build house that has a heat pump, so-called heat pump, and is built to the previous government's regulations, and government that you were probably in. And you can stay there now until the 5th of February and not have a shower and have to boil or draw your water from a well and not have any electrical power at all. And while you're there, we can talk about how downstream the consequences of policy decisions that you make, so that there's no open fire in that house, because your regulations incentivize that house to be built without an open fire. So they can't take the timber that's down here now, or the turf from their own bog, and burn it in their open fire, because your regulations said they can't have one. And we can have lots of discussions like that until you understand that when you play student politics and you introduce policy like you're a 13-year-old moron, the downstream consequences of that are people are cold and without hot water and without power. And while I'm on the subject, subsea cables, mark my word, in fact, store this video, because at some point, some malicious actor is going to cut the very few subsea cables that connect Ireland, and we will have no internet and nothing will work. And they're not preparing for that either.